Hi, this is Ranger Jonah with DeKalb County, and as you can tell, today I'm indoors. However, the reason I'm indoors is partially because it's pouring rain outside, and partially because I want to do a little bit of a nature show and tell with you of some of the items that I've found here at Mason Mill Park, which is one of DeKalb County's nature parks. So, you can see in the upper corner here, there is a big mess of leaves and sticks. What is it? Let's look a little closer. All right. What could this be? Well, if you guessed a bird's nest, you're right. This is the nest of a bird called a Carolina wren. A wren is a very, very small bird with a very, very loud voice. The Carolina wren is one of the first birds that you'll hear in the morning time, and they are very loud for being tiny little birds. However, they also make these giant nests. Here, I'll put my hand down in here. You see how big that nest is? It's bigger than my hand. Carolina wrens make these big, messy nests, and they'll make those nests in just about anything. I have a friend who told me that his wife put a wreath on their door and left it up after Christmas time, and lo and behold, a Carolina wren built a nest in it. I know another friend that said a Carolina wren built a nest in a boot. He left a boot in his garage, and there was a Carolina wren nest. But now, let's look at a different nest. So remember, here's the size of my hand. And now, look at how small this nest is. When we look at this nest even more closely, you'll see it's made of very, very fine pieces of plant material. There's even a small bit of plastic right here, and even human hair. I haven't fully identified what bird made this nest, but it's one of our other small birds, about the same size as the Carolina wren, and it's probably an American goldfinch or a chipping sparrow, or maybe a white-eyed vireo. Again, I haven't fully identified this nest, but look at the difference in the size of these two nests right here. And look at the amount of care that each bird took in making its nest. Which bird do you think spent more time and energy weaving its nest together? This one? Or this one? Yeah, I think this one too. And when we talk about birds, birds are something you can go right outside your window and see pretty much anytime you want to, or you can listen with your ears and hear them. One of the things we don't often see is the skeleton of a bird. And right here, I have what's likely the skull of a blue jay. The skull, of course, is the bones inside the bird's head. And again, I'll put my hand here next to it so you can see how big it is. Very small and also very, very light. You can see where its eyes would have been, where its nostrils were, and of course, its beak. I also have another skull that I want to show you, but it's of a different kind of animal. Have you learned how to classify animals? You know, mammals, reptiles, fish, invertebrates, amphibians, birds. What classification of animal do you think this skull came from? Well, that's where its nose would have been, right? And then probably that's where its eyes were. I wonder if this hole in the top is how the animal died. Then, if we look underneath, those teeth look a little bit like our teeth, and we are mammals. So perhaps this is the skull of a mammal. And in fact, it is. It's the skull of an animal that's a mammal that's called a raccoon. And what we can do is we can look at these skulls and they will tell us some of the differences between the different classifications of animals. Alrighty, now what's next? I was thinking I would save the grossest thing for last, but I think I'll show it to you now. This right here What is that? Most people immediately say, is it poop? No, it's not. It's actually vomit. These are owl pellets from a barred owl, which is one of the most common owls that you hear here in DeKalb County. Sometimes if you're up a little bit past dark or right at sunset, you might hear an owl go, hoo, 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 or something like that. And that is the barred owl. Instead of eating up their food and then using the bathroom like we do, owls eat their food and then they spit up, regurgitate, or vomit, whichever you want to call it, the parts of the animal that they can't eat. So when you look closely at this, right here, you see little bones. Can you see how it's kind of furry? And over here, this orange part, that's actually the shell of a crayfish. All the different things that the owls eat here in DeKalb County. Yum? Make you hungry for lunch now? Well, let me show you a couple other things and then we'll wrap up our show and tell. So, the next thing I want to show you is this. This is one part of a nest, but not a bird nest, an insect nest. A bald-faced hornet makes its nest by eating little pieces of tree bark and making paper. This is super lightweight. You can probably hear it a little bit. Hear it rustling around? And what happens is each year, the queen bald-faced hornet emerges from her den and immediately begins chewing on tree bark. She mixes that tree bark together in her mouth with her saliva until it becomes a wet paste, and then she spits it out and smooths it very thin. And she makes enough of a nest that she can then have some babies who are the workers. And then they go around and collect tree bark, chew it up, turn it into a paper paste, and spread it very thin. And as you can see, each stripe on this piece of their nest comes from a different tree bark, which has a different color. Can you see light brown, dark brown, grays, tans? And each little stripe that you see there was made by a different hornet. And these nests can get to be bigger than a basketball by late summer. Bald-faced hornets, of course, are a stinging animal, so we have to give them much room, but they are an important part of the ecosystem. Another kind of flying insect that you might see, and this is more likely to see around your house, is this one right here. This is the nest of a paper wasp, and actually I oftentimes will find these underneath the eaves of my house. They're not enclosed like the bald-faced hornet makes a paper nest. This one has open cells, and so as a result, they have to have something to keep them from getting too wet. This little spot right here is where this was connected to the underside of a house. And then this nest hung there like that. And that's how the hornets made their nest. I bet if you look around at a park nearby you, maybe under a picnic pavilion, or even in the houses or apartments near where you live, you may find one of these too. And don't be afraid. These are not very aggressive stinging animals. Give them a lot of space, but you don't have to be incredibly afraid of them. And friends, that's my show and tell. Except there's one more thing that I want to show you. Let's go across the room. Over here on the other side of the room, I have 3 shells. Do you know what kind of animal these are? Are they a mammal? No, they're reptiles. And all 3 of these shells are from the same kind of turtle. These are eastern box turtle shells. And when a turtle gets very old and it's time for it to pass away and die, animals come and they eat all of the flesh until all the bones are gone and the only thing that's left are the shells. And these are 3 shells that have been found here in DeKalb County. Let's lift one up and look at the underside. Can you see its backbone there? The shell is not just like a seashell. This is part of the turtle's skeleton, and its backbone is connected right inside of its shell. It's kind of amazing to look at, isn't it? Another one that we can look at here has both the top of the shell, as we saw earlier, but also the bottom plates below that protect the turtle's belly. And this one was found mostly intact. Eastern box turtles are one of the most common turtles that you'll find in DeKalb County. And if you walk around the woods, particularly just after a rainstorm, you may see an eastern box turtle either on the trail or just off the trail. Be looking around. They're not dangerous animals. And one fact that you can remember is if you look at the eastern box turtle's eyes, if its eyes are red, then that means it's a boy. If its eyes are brown, then it's a female. I hope that looking at some of these items right here have given you a little bit of fun today, but also some good reasons to go out in the woods and see what animals or artifacts of animals that you might find. If you find something, leave it in the comments and I'll be sure to take a look. This is Ranger Jonah with DeKalb County, signing off.